another little bit of time to sort of process the defeat against Frankfurt, I just thought it was worth delving into a few things in a little bit more detail. Sort of gone back again and listened to the David Moyes interview, well, 2 or 3 of them actually. The interview, the press conference, then obviously the one he did on the official West Ham channel. And then he sits down, I think it's with the press from all the newspapers. So I've listened to 3 or 4 separate interviews. He absolutely had the and it's really hard to sort of decipher what his motivation really for this. He's clearly annoyed, but as I mentioned in yesterday's video, a lot of what he was annoyed about is sort of obvious stuff. It's stuff that you and I know and have been saying a long time, and particularly the bits about, lacking a cutting edge up front and the delivery into the box and stuff like this. Well, we sort of know this. But he was unhappy, and I think majorly unhappy to the point where I think he's going to make some big decisions ahead of the next game. When I say the next game, most of me means the Frankfurt game, because I'm not entirely sure quite how seriously he'll take the Arsenal game, but he also has to take the Arsenal game quite seriously. But I think whatever he deems to be his first choice 11, I think it might be in for a bit of change. I don't just mean because whatever against Arsenal that Dawson's missing, or whatever Diop's injured against Frankfurt, or whatever the case may be. I think he was genuinely miffed a few of the performances. So what had irked him so much? Well, I think you can take a couple of people away from the criticism. I think number one, you can take Areola away from the criticism. There's lots to like about him. The more I see of him, the more I want him to be our goalkeeper next season and our first choice goalkeeper. I really did. The last against, who was it? Against Chelsea, Fabianski was my man of the match in that game. So there's nothing wrong with Fabianski, but I just think to encourage Areola to stay, you've got to say, look, you're the number one. You play all the time unless you're injured, basically. So I think he would probably be exempt from criticism. I think Zuma would, because he had just come back from injury. Zuma probably played through the pain barrier as well. Moyes would have been grateful for that. Probably didn't apportion any blame to defeat on him. I thought Declan Rice won't carry much blame at all, because he played well, by the way. Best player on the pitch, I thought. And, well, you'll know what I'm going to say next. If you're a patron, you're on the player ratings. I thought Bowen will be exempt from any criticism. Bowen was so close to that being actually a stellar performance. One of the iconic European performances in many respects. He could have had us home and hosed, and we would have been taking a lead into the match against Frankfurt. And who knows, you take the lead at some point during the game, maybe they sit back a little bit more. Whatever, just sometimes it changes the ebb and the flow. But I think there's a number of players that he would have been really unhappy with. I think, first of all, Aaron Cresswell. He's got a decision there to make about Aaron Cresswell, because Aaron Cresswell was a target in that game. There's little doubt about that. Like I mentioned it in the previous video, I won't lay the point, but basically he just couldn't keep up, and they were very much targeting him. I think as well, when you look at it, I think he probably won't be too worried about Dawson. Dawson can't play against Arsenal, and Dawson's got a lot of credit in the bank with David Moyes. And let's be fair, Dawson's been playing through the pain barrier this season. Dawson will get in, and Dawson will play against Frankfurt. Ben Johnson is less of a certainty. I very much felt that during that interview, the accusations of we don't get enough delivery into the box was very much levelled against Johnson. And I don't think it all should be. Because, what you're dealing with is basically a wide defensive player there, who I just think the onus should be on other players. I was more disappointed with Fornals' inability to get and support the front two, whatever you want to call them. I'm talking here about Antonio and Bowen. Whether they were a front two or whether they weren't, they seemed to be the only people who were sort of threatening the back line, up until the point where Benrahma came on, you understand. But I think there's other people in the team who should be getting close, like Fornals, like Lanzini. You get the idea. Soucek, we'll get onto him in a second. But I very much thought that when he made those comments, Moyes, about the lack, we should have got more crosses in there, it was about Johnson. I would imagine maybe Cresswell as well, but that's where our wide delivery comes from. We like, when we play our normal formation, right? We have Jeremiah Bowen, who's left-footed, and we play him on the right. And what we generally do is we play a right-footed player on the left. Now, what they always have to do is they have to cut inside and shoot, or basically check back and stall and wait and hesitate before they cross and get back onto their stronger foot. Now, it's not that David Moyes doesn't like crosses going in. He just thinks the crosses, basically the right-footed crosses on the right-hand side should be made by the fullback. The left-hand crosses on the left-hand side should be made by the fullback. Doesn't matter whether it's fullback or wingback. That's just what he thinks to do. Anyway, I think for David Moyes, you may well find that he plays Soucek there. And actually, during that game, I wanted Soucek to join the action. I really did. That being said, wouldn't be surprised if actually Ben Johnson goes and plays on the left-hand side, because actually, funny enough, I don't know whether it's because he's had to practice so much and he concentrates that much more because the left is his weaker foot. He seems to put in a bit of a better delivery with his left foot. Maybe it's just me. I don't think it's just me. I don't mean I'm good with my left foot. Clearly not. It's a swinger. Not me, the left foot. You get what I'm saying. Fornals. I wouldn't be surprised if Fornals doesn't make the team. Has to be said. I thought it was a really, really bad performance. I thought Fornals clearly was at fault for one of the goals. Okay, fine. But also he didn't offer anything going forward. I just think, well, to be honest, mate, and I'm not talking about the overall destiny of a player's career in a West Ham United shirt. I'm talking about the Frankfurt game. I think with Fornals, mate, if you can't offer anything attacking from an attacking aspect and you're bad defensively, then sort of what's the point, really? Can't attack, can't defend. Probably not going to get in. I suspect he's going to do something else there. He can't do all of these things. Don't have a big enough squad. And the other one I want to, really, actually there's two more I want to talk about. One with Antonio is Soucek. I mean, there's a massive issue with Soucek there. There's no doubt about it at all. I mentioned in the preview, and I sort of alluded in the preview, I said I don't really care what the reason is. And it's not like I say I don't care. It's probably the wrong way of saying it. And my point is we don't have time to reason and find out. It could be the Declan Rice situation. It could be fatigue. It could be any number of things. It could be that he's unhappy about his contractual situation. Whatever it is, I don't think there's time to sort it out between now and Thursday. And I think it was so ineffective, it's almost impossible to play him there. But I think Moyes still will. But I think Moyes needs to do something. David Moyes can't be happy with that. Both things can't be true. As Moyes plays him in every game, yet you hear these stories that David Moyes won't sanction a pay rise for him because he doesn't think he's up to the standard. Well, which is it? I mean, they can't both be true because he's the one player that does play all the time. Is the replacement options in Noble and Krell that bad that he continues to play, to deploy a player that apparently doesn't fancy in midfield? I'm not so sure. I think it's a hard one to call. But I'll tell you what, something needs to be sorted out because actually against Chelsea he was really good. He did lots of sweeping up, lots of clearing up. He was basically a defensive player, an auxiliary defender against Chelsea. But, the defence was wide open against Frankfurt. So clearly that wasn't happening. Not just down to him, by the way, but I'm just saying if he's not offering that protective barrier on the back from the back four, okay, what else is he doing? Well, you would hope he's providing an attacking threat. He didn't provide an attacking threat either. In many respects, I would say about Soucek exactly what I just said about Fornals. Sort of, what's the point? You're better off putting just another stopper in there who's going to do that job in front of the back four, or almost promote another player that you know is going to get forward and play him in central midfield, like Fornals or like Lanzini, and draft in someone else like Benrahma or whatever to play as the attacking midfielder. The other one is Antonio, and the Antonio thing really infuriated me. And I'll tell you why, because it was evident to anyone. I say evident to anyone. I know what it was like being in the stadium. I know what people were saying around me, and I know how frustrated people were with Antonio. And there was a lot of times during that game he just didn't look like a centre forward. Now, it should be no surprise to anyone, but the one person it should have no surprise to at all is David Moyes. It's quite obvious to one and all. But the reason I got frustrated with it wasn't so much Antonio's performance. I know that. And he did score a goal. And I did think, in terms of stretching a defence, there were good aspects to his game. But he just wasn't a striker, if you know what I mean. And it's difficult to make that point, bearing in mind he scored a goal, right? I think my annoyance in it was that David Moyes seemed a little bit surprised by it. I mean, he was genuinely miffed when somebody said, "Oh, you must be pleased for," he said, Mikey, you must be pleased for Mikey getting back on the goal scoring trail. He didn't even want to answer the question. Honestly, he was seething. Now, I don't think the question was that offensive, but I think my reading of it is he did not want to praise Antonio at all. And it was not a good centre-forward performance. But all of these things, I look at the lack of an option in central midfield to deal with Soucek. I look at Antonio not having a recognised striker. I look at the delivery not being great into the box. I look at all these things, and none of these things should be a surprise to Moyes. And this is not some big Moyes out thing. In fact, I find it infuriating that the manager that got us to the semi-final of the Europa League, and may well get us to the final, let's just say that, he can go from, being a hero when we went overseas and we went to Olympique Lyonnais and beat Olympique Lyonnais and thrashed them in their backyard. He can go from hero to, you read some of the comments, Moyes has taken us as far as he can because we've lost 2-1 against Frankfurt. I mean, so I find that, infuriating. I really do, actually, that it's so... It's not infuriating, but I just find it a bit of a shame that he's subject to such a fickle nature. I think he's been a good manager, and I think he continues to be a good manager. So I'm not talking about his overall tenure at the club and his future at the club. But I just mean, in terms of that interview that he gave and him looking at it and critiquing what was wrong in the West Ham gameplay against Frankfurt, I just thought, okay, mate, well, there shouldn't be any surprise to any of this. You should have all of this stuff covered. And you didn't. So what's he going to do for the next round? I don't know. Look, we'll deal with all that in the preview. But I do think, not only do I think he's got big decisions to make, I actually think it's getting to the point of the season where actually he's going to have to make them. Because all this loyalty to certain players and all these things that he does, it doesn't matter. At the end of his career, he will be judged on trophies. And he hasn't won any. And he's even admitted his first ever semi-final. This, up to now, is his best opportunity thus far to win a trophy. Who's to say we're going to get to another semi-final? History suggests we won't, not for another 46 years anyway. So, I mean, this is his chance. It's not like he's going to fail at West Ham and then go and get a big job. Maybe he thinks there's a big job on the horizon. I don't think he does. I think he thinks that West Ham is his project. But I really don't... Look, basically, there's only one way he gets a big job, and that's by winning a trophy at West Ham. But his desire to win that trophy has got to supersede any... What can I say? He can be a bit stubborn, is what I'm saying. So I need him, well, we need him, for that ambition to supersede any of that stubbornness. He needs to change some things in the team. He needs to switch things around for more, not just to get a tune out of players, but he needs to keep Frankfurt guessing. He's going to need to come up with something, I think, a little bit different. Because quite frankly, I think in that game, he got done tactically, really, didn't he? It was also a little bit odd in terms of the substitutions that he'd spent so much time trying to rest players and keep things fresh, and he made one substitution in the game. Well, what was the point in resting 3 or 4 players against Chelsea if you're not going to continue the trend of keeping people fresh? If you're just going to run them into the ground in one game against Frankfurt, I don't know. It was a really, really odd one. But as somebody said to me in one of the comments on the videos yesterday, he said, it sucked the life out of me when they scored that early goal. It was so hard to then get up and get motivated again. And it was, you know what? It really, really was. The value of trying to keep it tight at the start and all of that stuff is basic stuff that should be part of any team talk before the players go out. Keep it tight, don't concede in the first 5 minutes, so on and so forth. Just didn't happen. It was really tough, and I think it sucked the life out of us, the players as well, and gave Frankfurt all the encouragement that they really didn't need. Let's be honest. Anyway, onwards and up. Let's draw a line under Frankfurt for now, because we got Arsenal coming up. There's plenty of time to talk about Frankfurt at the start of next week. Anyway, I'll catch up with you tomorrow.